Hi, I'm Ted. Welcome to another schooly video. In today's video, we're going to try out some butt connectors. Okay, so perusing around some construction concepts, I don't know, you guys know how it is. You're kind of looking at all the schooly stuff and you stumble across the rabbit holes of the internet of different things to try. And I found these butt connectors, heat shrink solder seal connectors. And I was going to use these on the diesel heater video. These look, oh, that looks cool. So I ordered them. Of course, they got lost in the mail. They got shipped like that day, but they got lost in the mail. So I did the diesel heater and without them. But then I'd like to, so I haven't really used them, but I want to try them out. So I thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride as we figure them out. So when, sorry, my dog is very, what are you doing?
I don't need, no licking. No licking.
Ola's been home all day and she needs attention.
I'm busy right now. Yes, you're a good girl. That's enough. That's enough. Thank you.
Okay, anyway. Everybody say hi to Ola.
Hola. Are you a good girl?
So in connecting wires, there are basically three ways to do it. You can use a soldering gun and sort of solder them together, which typically has been my favorite way to do it. I just think it's more rugged, even though I'm not particularly good at it. But it just seems to make sense to me. And then there are butt connectors you can use. And this is kind of the way I've done most of it just because, well, it's easier, I think, in a lot of ways. But I have my doubts about that as well. And this system seems to combine both of them. There's a ring of solder inside the butt connector, and it's shrink wrapped, so you put the wires in and then heat it up and it melts the solder. It's supposed to get the wires together and then sort of seals it up at the same time. So I figured, let's try. That sounds pretty cool, actually. I'd like to try that out. All right, so this comes in a handy-dandy little box here, all color-coded for the different wiring gauges. I'd flip it up for you, but then the whole thing would fall on the floor. You know me, I got to make sure I seal it because I'll kick it over. Looks kind of like that. And so I got a piece of scrap wire here. And I'm going to push one in one end, one in the other. So the overlap, you can see there's a little solder ring in the middle of it. So just want to push them in there. And then blast it with a heat gun. Alright, so the idea is that little ring of solder melts in there, and then the shrink wrap kind of seals it up from water. I'm going to let this cool. I'm going to try to yank it apart. Seems like you kind of want that solder to melt completely and go in between the wires, but at the same time I don't want to melt completely through the shrink wrap either. So, alright, it's cool enough now to the touch. It's been about 2 minutes. So let's see how much force it takes to yank it apart. It does look pretty looks pretty tight, like moisture's not going to get in there. So I like the sound of that. Quick initial tug. That's pretty good. If I start putting a lot of force on it, I can feel it starting to stretch, and I can feel it starting to stretch. Now it's starting to come apart. So it will pull apart. Moderate pressure. Let's see what happens if we use just a regular old butt connector. Snip those wires off and strip the ends. One thing I found with these butt connectors though is it's really hard to find shrink wrap to go over them. Seems like you got to get really big shrink wrap, and then it doesn't just seem like it's so it fits around the butt connector, but then it's so big that it doesn't seem to really seal, I don't think, well around the wires. So that's kind of the challenge there for me anyway. All right, so we got good trimmed wire pushed inside that butt connector. And I do really like these crimpers. I've used them on a bunch of different projects. And I get nervous when I see people using just plain old pliers, because even these aren't fail safe, and I found sometimes I crimp and it yanks apart. And then I worried with the regular pliers, especially with the bus rattling all over the place, I just don't know if they'll hold over time. But I do like these. They're pretty comfortable, and they've got different die sizes you can use. So this is marked like for the red ones, the blue one, the yellow one. And I've had pretty good luck with them. But let's see, again, it's hard to get a piece of shrink wrap tube over that. Let's see how strong it is in comparison. So initially, it doesn't really, see, it still kind of pulls apart with all that pressure. And then I can just yank that one off. So I do use that one, although a lot of times if I don't have shrink wrap, I just take some black electrical tape and I wrap over that joint a little bit extra just for extra security. Let's try soldering. All right, so soldering, you got to remember to slide on the shrink wrap tube if you're going to use shrink wrap tube. I suppose it's not absolutely critical if it's going to be in a dry area, but I just like the idea of it for sure. And then I like spreading apart the fibers of the wire, the separate wire strands, push them together, and trying to seal them up. Actually, that shrink tube might be a little too small for this wire. We'll find out. Then we're going to solder it. So I found one of the challenges with solder is holding the wires together so you can know how to do it. And, years ago I had a little clamp that you used to hold the wires, and then I think I moved and I don't know what happened to it. So then I'd actually built one because I was like, oh, I need it, and I didn't have a chance to get one. So I just kind of took these little clamps and built that one, but that fell apart eventually. So I'm clampless right now. So I'm going to improvise with a couple wood blocks. I'm going to put on a little dab of flux paste. All right, there. Took me a little bit to get the heat going there, but I'll see if we can slide that shrink tube over there or not. Sometimes the solder gets... Yeah, I think the shrink tube is going to be too small. But you slide that tube over and melt it. But I need a bigger one. But it's pretty cool to see how strong it is. I can't break it. So that's why, I can't break it. So that's why I prefer soldering when I can, even though it's kind of a pain in the neck. But that's pretty strong. And again, if I had a slightly bigger shrink tube, that would slide right over that, and you could melt it, and that would be fairly watertight too. So, all right. So I was curious, and I went back again to the shrink wrap butt connectors there. because I was thinking about it, I was like, geez, I'm not sure if that solder really melted all the way. So I did another one. Of course, I didn't film that one. If you want me to film it again, put it in the comments and I will. And this time I almost melted all the way through the plastic. I was just kind of curious to see what happens. And this is actually, it's melted. This is strong. I can't pull it apart. So I think the secret, I'm pretty excited. I think that these other butt connectors work, and you have to find that middle ground between not melting the plastic, but actually getting the solder to melt in there. But that looks pretty tight. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I think I'm going to use these more. I wonder if I can break my foot. So I was able to break that one. But honestly, I broke the wire outside of the solder joint. It didn't even break the solder joint. That's convincing enough for me. All right, I revised my former assessment of these butt joints. Cool. So there you go. Thanks for joining me on our exploration today of wire joining techniques. Like I said, you can go with the old soldering method if you're really good with soldering irons. You can use the butt connectors. I think those are fairly easy. But given this new method, I think I'm going to switch over to these because I think, again, as I showed you, they're just as strong as a regular soldering, but a whole lot easier, I think, to use. And I really like because they're kind of built in with that shrink wrap too, so they're going to be moisture resistant. So. And actually, to be honest, there's a couple connections that are pretty accessible on the bus. I'm probably going to go back and put these in. Be a good winter project where I can crank up the diesel heater inside and do some of that. So there we go. Hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully that's helpful for any of you guys doing electrical stuff. Post any questions or thoughts in the comments and I'll get to them. But, like, subscribe, do all those things that you do. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.